Wow, it's just great to be with you all. There's so many friends here, and so I'm so honored that you all came. So I just want to tell you that. I want to start with a quote that I think is so prevalent and needed today. And it's from Isaiah, and it's, "Behold, I am doing a new thing." And the next line is, "Do you not perceive it?" One of the things that's happening today is we just came out of this ridiculous pandemic where everyone is now still in trouble in some manner of way with depression and aspects of going. How many people in the room know one person close to them that's committed suicide? Would you raise your hand? Now just look at the room, because everything kind of shifted for me back years ago when my 24-year-old nephew committed suicide. And what you have to do to go through that with a family, and how you have to help build them back up, and how you do all of that is so crucial. When I was young, I loved Sherlock Holmes. And it goes with our quote, because what I loved about Sherlock Holmes is he had this uncanny ability to see what other people couldn't see that was hidden in plain sight. And in executive recruiting, I believe that's the one quality that I believe that my dad, who started the executive search industry in 1967 out of McKinsey, is really placed kind of as a mantle down to me. And that was the ability to discern, to see things in other people, to lift you, to encourage you, to remind you who you are and whose you are and the path you're called. Each and every one of you in the room do one thing better than anyone in the whole world. And our job as friends is to remind you of that. Can you see that in other people? And one of the reasons I wrote 2 books was to kind of outline to someone first that I was making the ultimate equalizer in the power of who and 2 chairs. One in the fact that I was sitting you down at 2 chairs, one with God, to have a conversation every single morning, which is life-changing. And the other one was that God was giving you specific people to help you in ways you never imagined. He had already done it all. It's already done. We just have to get in rhythm with it. And so there's a great story of Sherlock Holmes. So he's out camping. He's out camping with Watson. It's 10 o'clock at night. And all of a sudden, he turns and, as they're camping, he says, "What do you see?" And he says, "It's lightly raining. I can see maybe, occasionally through the clouds, the moon or maybe some of the stars." And he says, "But it's lightly raining and it's getting colder." And he turns to Sherlock and he says, "What do you see?" And Sherlock says, "Someone stole our tent." If that doesn't depict what we've just been through in the pandemic, I do not know what can be better, because while we were looking out here, someone was stealing our tent. They've been stealing our friendships, our relationships, the people we call, the people we talk to as a norm. They stole your dreams, your aspirations, the things that you thought you were going to do, that you always thought you were doing. You settled in something. And so what's happened is the tone of America has lowered. And I reject all of it. So what I want to do today is, I always start out meetings totally different than anyone. I want you all to stand. And what I'd like you to do is do something that's probably something you haven't done before, is I'd like you to introduce yourself to the people around you as if you don't care about them at all. Go ahead and diss them. Let's go. You couldn't do it. I know it. Okay, so listen, what does that feel like? I don't know, Monday, Tuesday. You could be at church and you go, "Hey, there's the Beaudines. I hope they don't come over and talk to me." That's what happens today. What we've done is we've stopped being who we were created to be. And some things have hindered us, and I'm going to show you that in the power of your response. It doesn't matter, okay, in what happens to you in your life, okay, which will determine this. What matters is how you handle things and what matters. And so this time I want you to introduce yourself to the people around you. This time in a totally toolbox way, introduce yourself to all the people around you as if you're long-lost best friends. Let's go! Fantastic. Everybody sit. Oh my gosh. What the heck happened? We just what? We just let the energy in. The answer is I didn't say you could hug each other, but that's what we do. So what's interesting to me is this. Today we're going to talk about 3 things that you can't see, and we're going to make the invisible visible. We're going to try to show you what's been stolen from you, and we want it back. And the first one was our energy. The difference in executive recruiting, if I told you as I would do a search in the process, Deion Sanders, when he first came to my office 7 years earlier, trying to say, hey, show me, could I spend time with you and learn how to get a job in coaching? And then we sat and talked through a process of his goals and his desires and his passion and what he did. And then he would share his faith about how he was going to do it. And then I told him that in this world, you're going to have trouble. It's not going to come easy. Nothing any good comes easy. It's what we are created for. Is we don't mind the trouble. The issue is we have to see past it. We're working for an audience of one with God. And so the more I could share with you of how much you know, and so I got to get this. And so the thing about energy is the energy between 2 people is what makes great marriages, great families, great teams, great organizations like Toolbox. Why? Because inside this room, we could do enough just together for all our business that we'd never not be successful. We could start up new businesses. What couldn't we do? We could stop all the problems that are going on in Dallas and in Plano right here. But we just have to become what? Friends. Now, if you're a shy person and you didn't really go out of your way to do something, we just saw you hug people. And you're telling me that I just prompted you with one thought and that shifted you into doing something, and we saw the difference between what energy can really do to a room. I can tell you in a search that if I brought the 4 best candidates into the room for you all to see, we immediately know who's going to win. They're all the 4 best. I mean, literally run the 4 biggest teams. You know it. Why? Because of energy. It's what sets us apart. So listen, when I'm really going to end up talking at this end about 2 chairs is, can you imagine the opportunity that we could have each morning first thing to sit with the King? Could you imagine what would happen at a burning bush opportunity for us? That we would all of a sudden see and feel what that is and how it transforms us. So what I tell people all the time is each of us carries with us a personal environment. And so it's invisibly transmitted to each and every person. And so I can tell immediately if all of a sudden, right off the bat, we're going to be friends, how we're going to do it, how we're going to make this thing happen. And I can all of a sudden feel why you should win, because all interviews are over in the first 5 minutes. Every situation, every deal is really done. When you walked in a room, how you knew it, how you felt, the confidence to which you do. And so what's so fantastic is this. When I was young, my dad always wanted me to understand and see visually what greatness looked like. If I could see it, he could all of a sudden, it's so much easier to have a mentor that you could follow and you walk in a room and how they introduce you. What's so impressive as I watch you is how you introduce your daughters. How you introduce your sons. I mean, everyone who knows me is I'm going to introduce you over the top. I want to so make you look good because that's the biggest joy that I could possibly do is to get you to actually know how much I feel for you. And so my dad loved, and of course, since we're at Dallas Country Club, it's really good to start. My dad loved golf. Not just golf, so he would want to show me what this greatness looked like and how does this person react in times of trouble. What does someone do? The measure of a man or a woman is how you react and respond to trouble. That's the difference maker of each of the aspects and makes something that's invisible visible. So, of course, here's me and Arnold Palmer back in 1973, me with my Justin Bieber haircut. Arnold Palmer's the stud, so I got to take you there. It's 1973, Bob Hope Desert Classic. Arnie's up by 1. Okay, we're sitting there, and all of a sudden, he's teed off on 16, and he hooks the ball into the woods. Trouble. No, like ropes back then. So we're standing here, my dad and I, and here comes Arnold Palmer, and my dad nudges me like, Arnold Palmer, and I go, yeah, oh wow, and he goes, what do you see? Arnold Palmer. And he goes, no, what do you see? And I go, what? He goes, he's not worried about being in the woods. Isn't that interesting? That some people take trouble straight at it, others see it as an opportunity in disguise. The difference in great names is they wait for this moment. They're looking forward to this moment. It's another challenge for them to beat, and they know that if they get put in that situation, they're going to do it. The caddy comes in, plops the bag down. Arnold Palmer's hitching his pants. He's kind of looking at this thing, and all of a sudden, the caddy goes, now listen. Okay, so what's your name in the middle? Right there. Yeah. Daniel, stand up. So Arnie's looking. Put your hands up like this. He's the tree. So Arnold Palmer's looking at this, and he says, you have to hit this ball right under that little right wing of his, and you're going to have to hook it left to a green that's tucked in tight, 240 yards. And so he says, listen, that's really, really hard. He says, we're up by 1, hit a little wedge right out here. We'll go in. We'll hit the next shot. We'll maybe get up. We might get lucky and get a par, but if we didn't, we're still even. Drop your hands, stay there. I'm going to give you a chance. That's very hard for you to do. And so all of a sudden he turns and he says, hey, now listen, have you ever noticed when someone talks to you and they give you something that you're seeing this, that this is what I got to do, and they want you to hit a little wedge? Did you ever notice that great people hate hitting little wedges over there? So Arnie's kind of needs something that he can't get from his caddy. Now this is such a tip for you. I need it to indelibly be marked on you. When you're low on energy, you can grab energy from other people. It's the other people. I can do that with you in the audience. I only have to look at someone and they can juice me from where I am. And so Arnold Palmer is now thinking, caddy's out, so he's going to look around to see who's here. And he slowly turns his head, and there's my dad and I right there. And he looks at my dad and he hits his eyes with my dad. My dad gives a no sign on the wedge. The caddy goes, I saw that. Hit the little wedge right out there. Arnie thinks this is funny. He waggles the wedge again. Slowly, he turns his head. My dad says the no sign. He barks. He comes over, get the wings up. Here we go. There's a tree. He looks and says, could I hit that ball over there? He comes back. He grabs, true story, grabs the 4-wood. Slowly, he turns his head. My dad gives him the yes sign. He barks at the caddy to get out of the way. He sets himself up. He's got the shot. He's got this thing. Head cocks. It just takes off. Just clears underneath it. It's unbelievable. Boom, it turns left like a homing signal. It starts rolling up. It goes up, boom, 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 5 feet from the pin. The crowd is going crazy. Arnold Palmer saluting my dad. And the whole folklore of Arnold Palmer is all because of my dad. Energy, thank you. Everybody give the tree here a hand. It's the most aspect of something you can't see, but when it enters the room, we know exactly who it is. There's the person. This is the person I want on my team. This is what we're going to need to be able to do this with everyone around you. How many friends do you have that if you're down for the count, that you could pull energy from them. This is the crucial piece. In life, if you got one friend, you're blessed. That's why I wrote The Power of Who. 12 friends, 3 close, 1 best. My dad and mom used to always tell me this was like the gift that kept on giving, because you had friends that you were given by God to help you do extraordinary things. We move from ordinary to extraordinary because we're all a cup short of greatness. And with you, I'm better. With you, we could just kick it. But alone, in tough times, we're not going to do it. And what happens the most when you're in trouble? No one tells anybody. I just had a friend, president of an NFL team, came into my office. And he'd been president for the last 20 years. And he comes in, and he lost his job. And I said, congratulations. Like, this is the greatest day of your life. And he's like going, huh? And I go, what are you talking about? I said, you hated that job at the end. When did God tell you that you were supposed to leave that job? And he goes, a year and a half ago. And I go, he had to fire you. You're sometimes in jobs that you're not on your assignment, purpose, and destiny. Do you know God has an assignment and a purpose and destiny? And all of us are about to enter into it. Behold, I'm doing a new thing. God's into new things. He's not into old things. He doesn't care about this situation that you were in before. That's old. That was yesterday. Today, we're doing new things. The question is, do you not perceive it? Well, how would you not perceive it? Because you ain't talking to God. We have to have the whole point is having a personal relationship with God. And the greatest opportunity that we have as Christians is talking to him. Love. I don't want to even mention the fact that I loved this guy who came into my office. And we talked, and I was taking him down to meet some people here at Dallas Country Club who was going to help him go further. And I didn't really want to, I was just questioning, and God said, hold a second, I really want you to. So I told him, if who you are is what you have, and what you have is taken from you, then who are you? We're not like a business card. I've been 43 years in executive recruiting. I'm disguised as an executive recruiter. I have an opportunity to put the one person that could change the entire culture of your team. It's the only joy I have. I can look out all of them. I have the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords as my CEO of my firm. And all my success in business and life is from 2 chairs. So he's rushing me a little bit. He wasn't really looking, the president of the team. He wasn't really responding. And I didn't ask him the one extra question because we were kind of rushed. And then a month later, he committed suicide. As a former president of a team. But he didn't tell me that there was trouble in marriage, trouble something. Listen, the whole point of Toolbox is to move you not just from success, but to significance. That we have a team of people here that could help you in all the trouble, that you're not actually being judged. I don't care what you did. I don't care where you've been, what's gone wrong. We know the person who can help you turn this around, create something new, create an entire new life, one that's going to be so much more joyful in your life if you just would give it a shot and tell us what the trouble is. And can you have one friend to do it? Well, it's hard to find friends today. It's hard to. And so I got to show you something. So love, you can't see love, but we're not going to think it's not the most dominant thought in the world. So here's my question is, let's just go down. So who's your best friend? Caleb. Does he live in town? Okay, and then who's second?
My wife's first.
We were hoping you were going to say that. I was going to have to catch you there. That was good. Okay, and then you have another buddy?
Yeah, but back in LA.
Back in LA. Who's yours?
Holly.
Okay, good job. And then who?
Steve.
Steve, is he in town?
Yes.
Okay, who's yours?
Jordan.
Jordan, in town?
In town.
Another? Okay? Who's yours? And then who? And is it in town? Okay. And so who's yours? Then who? In town? Then who? Who's in town? Who's your buddy in town? Who's the one person you're going to call? Not in the room.
We just moved here.
Just moved here. How long ago?
July, last year.
Last year. So, if you ever thought that not having one friend in town that you can go talk to, so Zig Ziglar, who lived in my neighborhood, he used to always tell me that if you go out, okay, looking, for a friend, they're hard to find. But if you go out trying to be a friend, there's lots. So it's interesting. Everyone get your phones out. We're going to play a game, and we're going to text message our best friend. Everyone raise your right hand. I promise. I'm going to play the who game. Now, even though you say that, and you're all Christians, this is a hard game to get everyone to play. So you're going to have to follow me. I played this game with 500,000 people. It'll be the most impactful game you've ever played. Ever. And when you see the responses, what we're going to do is we're going to text message our best friend, and I want you to pull up one person, your best friend. Then I want you to hold it, select all, and copy that message, okay, that you're sending to your best friend. Send it. And, of course, if you're over, 50, then you're going to have to look at someone maybe younger to see how you hold, select, and copy, okay? But you're going to send this out. So here's the message. Simple. Hey, I was just thinking about you. These are the 3 most affirming lines in history. I'm thinking about you. I appreciate your friendship. I love you. 3 things in this process. So I want you not to say, hey, dude. No, it's just, hey. You don't have something, hey, I'm in a conference with this guy, and he's giving me a talk, and he's doing this. No, you're going to send this message, and I'm going to then tell you stories, and then they're going to respond, and I'm going to get you to stand up, and you're going to tell what they said. It's amazing what happens here and what you do. Then we're going to send this one to our mom and our dad if they're alive. We're going to, one of the other. We're going to send it to our brothers, our sisters, okay? If you have a son or a daughter, okay, that's above the age of like 14 or 15, and they text, we're going to send it to our kids, okay? And we're just going to copy and paste. So everyone start and say, hey, I was just thinking about you. Send it to your one, and then I want you to copy, hold it, and I want you to send it to the 7 people real quick. Roll them. Let's go. I want to tell you, so it's just crazy as we do it. I had a guy, and I'll talk to you and tell you stories. If you send this, and I want you, of course, everybody to send it to their mate, okay, as well, but you have a 94% chance if you send this to your mate that they're going to come back and say, did you mean this for me? And the reason is that word, friendship. Fascinating. The one thing that God said, that there's no greater love than to lay your life down for a friend. No one knows this better than Joe, okay, who's doing all our aspect of all our stuff. As a military star, okay, somebody who's gives his life for other people. He played this game, and he does it with his military. And so this is when you do something with people and you're talking about your friends, because there's a difference between friends, okay, and acquaintances. Friends help you now. Acquaintances wish you well. Friends know the song in your heart and can sing it back to you when you've forgotten the words. Friends are amazing. So 7 people. Everybody rip. You got your 7? You're so fast. That's so cool. It's just like, well, who's gotten an answer so far? Raise your hand. Okay, here we go. Stand up. Speak it out loud. What's your name? Okay, and who'd you send it to? And what did he say? That's all he said? So we're going to have 3 lines. Stay up, stand up, keep standing. Thank you, and see you soon. Did he say, I love you back? No. Where's the love? That's what you write. Where's the love? Send him the text. So listen, I'm going to tell you, there's not one person in my industry that I do with Ultimate Fighting Championships, with tennis, golf, etc. I do not work with one person who will not say, I love you back. The difference is there's 180 words in the Greek language for love. We've got one. So in September, Cheryl and I are going to be married 40 years, okay? So I love my wife, Cheryl, and I love tacos, so it's really confusing. No, it's not. There's 180 words, and they're all better than like. Send that back and then see your response. And have you gotten more than one? Not yet. Okay, here we go. Who's over here? All the way in the back. Yell it out for us.
All right, so my name's Roy. My wife's name is Jessica. So I sent this to my best friend. He said, love you too, Jessica. Why are you texting from Roy's phone? So I've got funny friends.
Yeah, send back, no, I meant this for you. Write that exactly. So there's only 3 responses we're going to go. No, I meant this for you for the first sarcasm. No, I meant this for you. I love you for the second one. And then a lot of people are going to say, hey, ditto, back at you. They're not going to give it to you because our world doesn't say the L word anymore. Do you think that's an enemy tactic? Come on. The guy who created the world is love, and he wants you to tell people you love him, and you're telling me I'm not picking your friends. You are. And so the question is, do it. Who's in here? Let's go. Who got one here? Yeah, stand up.
So I sent it to my daughter-in-law in Oklahoma. She wrote back, thank you so much. That means a lot. Love you too.
Oh, fantastic. Good job. Okay, the guy right behind him, stand up. What'd you get?
I sent it to my brother, and I got, love you too, man. Everything good on your end.
Yeah. Well, it's normal. So the normal response after a pandemic is, are you okay? Are you drunk? I mean, what the heck happening here? I mean, so that we do not care because you think, listen, I know you're a Toolbox. I know you all can say I love you. This was a simple thing for you to send out. What we're doing is we're breaking through to them. So here's the rule. So men over the age of 35 stop adding friends. Did you know that? They're friendly. They don't add friends. They keep their old ones. Men over 60 stop actually both old friends and new friends because they focus in on their family. Not because they want to. It's just because that's what happens in life. And so what happens is trouble comes. Who are you going to turn to? Well, we can't talk to anybody. So now we're in deep trouble. So who are you going to call in a time of crisis? Who's the one person that you can call? Well, I can sure remember the person who sends back a text and says, hey, you mean everything for me. Because what you're going to start to see is the love letters are going to start to come of how much you mean to them and what the shock is. So we're just going to keep forcing them because a man who won't say I love you back has a 82% chance, 82, of not telling his kids I love you. Just to show you what this is about, how many men in the room, their dad never said I love you? Raise your hand. So the answer is 70% of men today have never had their dad say I love you. And so we're going to shift all that. Okay, someone in this group over here, who got one? Okay, stand up.
My best friend back home, he and I are accountability partners. We confess to each other. We go to each other with problems. His name is Walt. He said, thanks, Jim. I feel the same way. So thankful to do life with you. Love you too.
Yeah, awesome. How about this table? Here we go. Yeah.
So this is my son. He says, thanks, Daddy.
So you go back to him and say, I meant this for you. I love you. Now we're going to play him and we're going to push him. So see, you understand the problem today. I'm giving a talk coming up here next week on for new friends, new lives, for human trafficking, to stop human trafficking. We need to teach our men, our young boys, our sons, that no one wants to talk about this subject. Well, we're going to talk about it. This is horrendous. What we tolerate in life, we can't change. And evil prevails in our world because good men do nothing. And here's our chance to showcase to all our friends the simplest concept. I'm thinking about you, I appreciate your friendship, and I love you. And here it is. We want to boldly go where no one's gone before. We are going to tell people everywhere we go. We're going to do something. What did you do to start? You hugged each other. Now you're telling everybody you love them. Why? Because that's what we do. That's the difference. How would I decide to say you're a Christian? Why would I do it? I mean, one of my favorite books is a woman who wrote it in 1865, Hannah Whitall Smith, and she wrote, the successful way how to get a successful way to a Christian life. And so she says, no one's happy. I can't see it on your face. In this world, you're going to have trouble. Be of good cheer. How could I be of good cheer after trouble? The only way I do it is if I knew him and I knew what he's about and that this couldn't be something, it's got to be something totally that I'm missing. And do you not perceive it, that I'm doing a new thing? We're doing a new thing here. Do you not perceive it? Do you not see what it is that we would turn and say to our wives? I mean, what we could do? I mean, I got people all over the country, they'll send back, and their wives are constantly just saying, hey, who is this? Who's got your phone? And the reason sometimes is we're not sharing it. In fact, at the tables, you'll already see that people are reticent, even though they got messages back, that they don't want to say their message. Why? Because, listen, the fact is, we want the person to say something crazy so I can say, no, I meant this for you. No, I meant this for you. I love you. And immediately the love letter comes. And immediately it changes everything. And it's the most fun with coaches. All the way back at this table. Who got one here? Yeah, stand up.
So I got 3.
Of course you did.
My best friend Nate said, thanks, brother. I love you too. I'll always be here for you. Thanks for always being my best friend, my brother.
Oh, that's awesome.
My friend Ryan said, love you too, buddy. Looking forward to the JLP this Thursday and hearing about your event. And then my buddy Paul said, absolutely, man, you as well. I hope that you would include me as part of your circle. I know I consider you that. Love you too.
Fantastic. So listen, it's interesting. So someone in our group this size has already gotten a message that says, I can't believe you sent that. I really needed it. I'm in the midst of a trouble. So this is what really happens. So we have a chance to actually now play in God's world. That all of a sudden, we just sent a text message. So people are going to ask you at some point, why'd you send this message? And you're going to say, I was with this crazy guy. And he said, if I sent these 3 lines, the 3 most affirming lines in history, who would I choose to send it to? And I chose you. So now we're not like in any little game anymore. I didn't pick your people, you did. So in the world, that's you weirdo. In Christian, it's like, oh my gosh, thank you for, especially coming out of this, at a pandemic. Can you imagine you sending that to your dad at this point? So I had a person send it to his mom in the mortgage banking meeting. His mom sends back and she goes, oh my gosh. I said, tell me about your mom. And he said, she got 6 months to live. And I said, what did she say? Oh my gosh, son, I'm looking out the window of the hospital and you sent this to me. If I could tell you how much I love you from the highest mountain in Switzerland, I love you, echo, echo, echo. And he just sits down and cries. A week later, he sends me a note on Facebook that he says, my mom passed away today. What if I hadn't sent the text? What good is it that you love someone and they don't know it? Who got a message that all of a sudden is just wild and all of a sudden is like touching on what I'm saying? And as soon as you get the message, I want you to just, yeah, here we go.
I wanted to bring it up. I'm trying to get through it. My dad's in hospice, so I took my mom. And she said, oh, thank you, but I'm not sure what I did for that. She asked about my kids. How are Grace and Wayne? How is Emily, my wife? How are you? It was a good day for your dad today, or yesterday, but not so much today. I love you so much. Thank you for always being there for me and your dad.
Spectacular. Thank you for sharing that. So one of the things that I love about any moment we have today is in hospice, in our last moments, is that what would I want to be known for? I want to be known for telling you I love you. I want to be known for praying for you. So we're going to take 10 seconds. Everyone put your right hand out and put it right at Ryan right now. What's your dad's name? Ben. So we're praying right now for Ben in hospice. Lord, make this a better day. Make this easy on him. Lord, provide the facet of him knowing how loved he is and that he is going to spend eternity with Christ. Can you imagine that day of what heaven's going to be like? We ask you that each of the family members right now get the peace of God that surpasses understanding, that it rests on them. And we thank you for doing that for Ben, because all of us here, this is who we are, this is whose we are, and this is the path we are. And we send that in the mighty name of Jesus. Amen. Two are better than one. That's all we need. I mean, seriously. You and I, we start a new company. You don't think we're not going to make millions? We are. There's nothing about this that we can't do. Do you think God's not starting up a new thing where all of a sudden that we could do something that's so big for the kingdom, that there's new thoughts that he's bringing to you? And constantly, you are one thought, one idea, one friend away from unbelievable. And yet we're constantly thinking about this old stuff that we're doing that we were not taking care of before. And the reason we're holding on to all this stuff is that our bodies were never created to be able to take care of a care, ever. He took care of it on the cross once and for all, and he wants to talk to you about all that stuff and move us into the new thing. All of a sudden, if one falls down, we stick up for him. That's the whole concept of something, of moving significance. We've all seen it. We've all been in a spot. The streets are going crazy, all out of nowhere. It's 8 o'clock in the morning in New York, and this person's running. This girl's got her stuff. She's carrying it, coffee and phone and all her papers, and she trips and falls. Scrapes her arms, hurts everything about it. All of a sudden, everyone is just still bustling. She's in disarray. And then, out of nowhere, this person comes across and picks her up, gets her papers, does all of this for her, gets her over to the other side, and stops and settles her down. And I just wish like crazy, if I could have had a picture, I could have done a video of just seeing that happen so I could tell my grandson Maverick, my grandson Major, and tell them, this is who you are. This is what you were created for. You were created to do good works that God pre-planned before the foundation of the world. The question is, do you not perceive it? Do you not know it? How would you know? Well, I'd have to talk to him. I'd have to have conversations. If we know, then I'm home, I'm thinking about this, telling my wife, and then all of a sudden it dawns on me. No one else was going to help. No one. No one else even saw it. Do you know that God's got people crossing your path right now? There's people in this room that you were supposed to be friends with that could change the trajectory of your life. You could change theirs. That we're supposed to be there for them in their one moment, that we could all of a sudden sit and pray for Ben. We could turn, that he can go back now and tell his mom, hey, so listen, I want to tell you that we just had a meeting. Everyone in the entire room just prayed for Dad. And that, by the way, Mom, what do you mean if I'm good for this? I love you so much. You are the treasure. It's all about a friend. If you had one friend, true friend, it's unbelievable. But we live in the matrix. No friends are allowed. 18% of companies have a program that promotes friendship. 18. When I go out and talk to corporations, I tell them I can increase your productivity 40% by doing a talk and getting your team to know that they are celebrated and not tolerated. That all of a sudden, if you had one friend, this is what it would be. If you had 3 friends, you have a 96% chance of having a satisfying life. Not just a job, but only 30% of our country has one friend. So we're working this, let alone, no wonder 69% of the country believe that a bad day at the beach is better than a good day at work. 80% of the country are not using their number one talent. So we're spending billions of dollars training people in jobs they don't want to do, and 62% of the country is getting divorced. We got trouble. So we have to make a change. What? I was just coming to the club. I wasn't thinking about this. This is what I was thinking about. I got meetings today. This is Monday. So the world starts to revolve around me, and when the world revolves around you, know what happens? Bam! The great philosopher, Mike Tyson. He says that everyone has a plan until they're hit. Have you been hit? Because I have. I mean, so life took me in a totally different direction that was heading us to the bunker. And I was going to look like this guy. And I want to show you. I was asked to give a talk to Dallas Baptist University for their commencement address. And I thought, that's like for Denzel Washington and this is mayors and dignitaries and what the heck. But this guy, Adam Wright is a huge two-chair guy. He has 2 chairs as university president, and he meets God every morning first thing. He promotes and he's got books everywhere in his office to hand every student, whoever comes in who has a problem, and he turns to him and says, I got to tell you about Bob Beaudine's mom and the secret, which I'm going to tell you about, but I want to tell you something first. So I go to give this talk. I'm in my full regalia, and I'm giving this talk, and so I tell these kids, congratulations, you're graduating. Did anyone tell you yet that you're in a bubble and that you're going to have to go out to a world that really doesn't like Christians? Did I tell you that there's trouble out here and that getting a job is hard, that you can't find it on LinkedIn? Did I tell you that this is like really struggle? I said, I've got something I want to tell you a story about. One of my favorite books, it might be some of yours here, is Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl. So Viktor Frankl was in a Nazi death camp. And so Viktor Frankl, they killed his mom, they killed his dad, they killed his wife, they killed his kids. And he wasn't going to let them take this from him. And he was being moved from one Nazi camp to another and tortured. And he then said this line, and I told the kids, I want you to indelibly write this on your heart. Between any stimulus, whatever happens to you, and your response is a space, and you get the power to choose your response. If you choose a negative one, an emotional one, you're going to spiral down. If you choose an intentional one, in the most horrific times, there is room for growth and freedom. So I had no idea that I was writing that for myself. So in June, we were with our whole family. And, in Destin, and my big lug of a guy over the far left is my son-in-law, Rob. And my newest grandson, Bo, his name was Bo. And I always wanted his name to be, it's B-E-A-U after my last name, Beaudine. And so I said to Rob, I said, when he was born, I said, we should just make this easy and you should name him his middle name Dean, and it could be Beaudine Burns. And of course, he thought that was a lousy idea. And he wanted his middle name to be after one of his uncles named Brocious. And I thought, Bo-Bro? But we did. And so little Bo is just this fantastic kid. And so, I got to take you back a second, but this little kid. And so 3 days when we got home, he snuck through a dog hole and was drowned. And so my son-in-law pulls him out so that we have 7 days in the ICU. And so it's chaos for us. So I could just hear, I'm trying to gauge. And on day 2 in the hospital, we decided we needed to lock arms as a family and surrender to God. And we did. And we all just said, oh my gosh, there's something, God. And so I just went to my 2 chairs and just sat with God. And you're down in a Starbucks. They don't let many people in your room. And you're just talking to God and when I had talked to my mom, when I first started to write this back, God wouldn't let me write 2 chairs for 40 years. And I've been doing it that long, and he wanted me to have a body of work, as I understand it, as I process backwards, to understand how to respond correctly, how to know God. How could you be of good cheer when something like this has occurred? We're locking arms. We're just trusting God. On day 6, they tell you that he's brain dead. On day 7, the government wants to tell you again. On day 7, I mean, my gosh, my daughter's my hero. I mean, the doctor who comes in, of course, they're all in chaos themselves from being in an ICU as a doctor, right? And having gone through a pandemic. And she comes up and says, Jenny, I do not want to tell you what I have to tell you. And my daughter had the most unbelievable aspect of God that she turned and she said to her, she goes, now listen, we are so proud of you, doctor. She says her name, Anne, and she says, you loved Bo, you took us through this process, and I just want to tell you, you're a really good doctor, and I just want to tell you, I love you. And at that moment, this doctor broke. And I'd never seen her cry. All the nurses and everyone cried. Everything shifted. On day 8, my grandson gave his heart to a 4-month-old who had never been home from the hospital. He gave his liver to a 2-year-old boy that my wife and I prayed for on that floor, ICU floor, not knowing he's getting my grandsons. He gave his aspect of his 2 kidneys, 2 little peanuts, to an aspect, he gave these 2 kidneys to a 42-year-old woman who had 18 days to live. And she's perfect. All 3, can you imagine how our family joyously rejoiced with God about their families in the midst of all of this? How could we do that? I want to tell you that I don't know if it's possible if I hadn't had 2 chairs. My mom said to me, so there's 3 things that I said, how would I find out? What do I do in times of trouble? She said, I'm going to ask you 3 questions. And she says, I don't know the answer, but I know who does. And I'm going to ask you 3 questions. That's what this book's about. 3 questions, 7 things to do in a time of crisis. And I had no idea I was going through the crisis, my 7 things for me, that I wrote the book really for me. And the 3 questions were, does God know your situation? And I tell people, listen, this is not just simple, but it's disruptive in a time like this, right? 2 is that, is it too hard for him to help you? No. Does he have a good plan for you? Yes. What is it? I don't know, Mom. And I can tell you this, that every day we have another miracle that God's done. What if God, who loves me, who loves my daughter, loves everything, a day in heaven's 1,000 years. So when I die, Bo will have missed me 3 minutes. I tell my daughter to change her thoughts, to get her, and I say, can you imagine Jesus walking Bo into heaven? There's my mom. And I said, she has 25 great-grandchildren. She's never seen one. And all of a sudden, she grabs a hold of Bo. And then all of a sudden, do you think Jesus ever gets to hold him again? No. So here's this aspect. When we were selling her house, who would buy the house? Joe's going to like this, is that we missed the real estate market. And it just had done, and so we're thinking, uh-oh, how are we going to do this? And so we walk in to this situation, and they're kind of do the bidding of the house, and it's bid up bigger than the house, ever the market. And so in comes the 2 people who buy the house, and they've got gifts. And in one of them's a military guy whose kids have grown, and he turns and says to my daughter, I knew about Bo and the house. And he says, when I found out and when I walked into the house, the presence of God was so big in the house. He says that I felt if he could give his life for 3 people, then I wanted this house. This is my house. And the wife turns and says, we wanted the blessing of Bo. Now, you know that's not what other people would have. So I tell you this story. Why? Well, I want to tell one miracle further. So my daughter's pregnant. He had gotten a vasectomy. He had to get a reverse vasectomy. That's not good. And no one told him he was ever going to be able to have another kid. And now God has changed up the game again. Behold, I'm doing a new thing. Do you not perceive it? Will we perceive it? And I want to encourage you that in your most horrendous time, God met us. If it's not good, he's not done. At the end of this time, could you imagine that God would meet you first thing in the morning, you get a minute to talk and he gets 4, and he'd like to share with you things that you're doing, and then you get to cast all your care. And that's what we did every single day. And so how could I talk to you positive and love God more than I've ever done before than today is because he's so good. He met us everywhere along the way. And so I want to encourage you. I wrote this book to open up an avenue that would be your greatest gift. That the guy you'd know, he knows you. And so I just want to finish by us doing one thing further. Lock arms with the people around you. Lock arms. Here we go. And so one of the problems is that I found in this process is that 50% of the people in the room have just gone through something as bad or worse in some way. And so I want each of us, because this is what we do, I'd like you to pray for the person to your left and to your right. And I just want you to start, and then when you're done, I'm going to pray over all of you. Start. Lord God, I just lift up each and every man here, every woman. I ask you to fill them with the peace that surpasses understanding. That actually, that you are there for them today, that this is the day we're going to rejoice and be glad in it, that you're going to open up, that we see now things that are invisible, that we are going to bring energy, we're going to bring love. And the last piece here is that time is not our enemy, timing's our best friend. And God said if you would seek him first, what you place first in your life changes everything. And could we not spend 5 minutes in the presence of God, which changes all our best laid plans? Could we start our day first with you and then say, what have you got for me to do for you today? And he's going to say, are you available? And we are going to say yes. And then our doing his things is going to bless your family generationally, and all the love that we sent out in this room, all the people who didn't get a chance to tell their messages, Lord, I just ask that we go back to each of them and make sure that we get them to say, I love you. So Lord, I love you. I love that you've got Bo in your arms and he's okay. I thank you that you've got my daughter, my family. I thank that each person here has got family, and I ask that no weapon formed against them is going to prosper, that they can have joy. There's so many friends of mine. I just want to bless them here today with peace. And I ask that you meet their need first thing tomorrow with the most amazing thing. Could we meet tomorrow first thing with God and cast our care, this great exchange, and then the peace of God and insight, I pray for you, and wisdom and power and favor. And I pray for everyone here in Jesus' mighty name. And everyone said, amen. Thank you so much.
We got time for just a question or two for Bob. If any of you guys got anything you want to ask him or tell him. Hey, what should people do, like, if they want to tell you about, like, the text messages that they get?
So here's the thing. This is, if you get a message back from your mom or your dad, and they say how much they love you and how much they mean to you, you get one from your daughters or your sons, you have to move that to your notes, because it's going to go away from your thing. And I'm telling you, oh my gosh, I have people. So I had this girl who said to me, her dad had come to my talk, and she said, I want you to meet this guy. He's like the ambassador of love. And so, and he says, I need you to read this book and how much God loves you, how much this situation, he does it. And of course, she didn't read it. And 7 days later, he passed away. And so she immediately started to search to find her letter from her dad that said, I love you, anywhere. She couldn't find one. So, dang it, could we not be sending our daughters and our sons and saying how much I love you, what you mean to me? The blessing that happens from the Jewish faith is so amazing. They do an Abrahamic blessing, and I tell people to do it every single night. They lay hands on their kids and they say, I love you, I'm proud of you, and I give you the Father's blessing. When you do that with your kids, they walk into their calling. Less than 1% of Jewish men, less than a quarter percent of women are in prison. This is a blessing that's goes on. If you didn't have your dad do it to you, you get your dad before him and say, hey, I'm with this guy the other day. He just tells us about this blessing. I got to have dad. What you have to do when you put his hand on your head and you say, tell me, what you have to say is, I love you, I'm proud of you, and I give you the blessing. And you will never be the same. This is what God said. So when I said this message, hey, I'm thinking about you, I appreciate you, I love you, I had done it for like a year. And all of a sudden, I sit down at 2 chairs, and God goes, well, hey, good morning. I go, hey, how are you doing? And so first off, you talk out loud, right? You have a special thing. When you do 2 chairs in your house, can you imagine that you're bringing the Ark of the Covenant into your house, and what changes for the atmosphere of your house and everyone else who ever comes into your house? The favor? I mean, that was what, Obed-Edom happened. They gave the Ark over to his, and all of a sudden, David figures out, this guy's getting blessed ridiculously. I got to get that back. And so we all have that. So I'm sitting with God, and God says to me, you never asked me. What? Why I said to send this text message out to everyone. And I said, why? And he says, because, Bob, I'm thinking about you. And I appreciate your friendship, and I love you. Can you imagine? I'm telling you, that's what God wants to tell you.
Last thing. Tell us once again what we're supposed to say to the people when they ask why you sent that text message.
Okay, so this is really good.
Coaches.
So listen, this is what you want to say. So I was with this guy, and he wrote these 2 books. You tell him I'm a crazy guy or whatever you want to say. And he said that if I sent these 3 lines, the 3 most affirming lines in history, who would I choose to send it to? And I chose you. And then if you send it to your wife and then you send it to 2 other people and they start to talk and they said they got this message, well, you sent this to so-and-so. Yeah. He said, could you extend this out to 7, 8, 10? Is there people in your life that you have room to tell them this message? Can you imagine? One of the hardest parts about giving a message like what I gave you today is, can you make room for it? Because you're all got up to here. And I'm telling you, it's hard to get a message into people. This message, these 2 books, I'm introducing you to the King of Kings. Power who? He gives you all the people to get everything you need done. That's the game.
All right. How about a big thank you, Bob Beaudine. Hey, thank you, brother. Woo.